Hi, I'm Chris Schwab. I'm a senior technical architect for FPWeb, and we're here at TechEd.
Hey guys, this is Jeff and Chris, and this may come as a shock to a few of you, but here you have FPWeb and Rackspace in the same frame, and we're getting along.
We don't fight at all.
Not at all, at least not on camera. But we wanted to talk to you a little bit about today. We were just having a conversation around, we'll just call it governance. Where does your data need to live? Where do your servers need to live? Because we were just saying in the old days, before this thing called the cloud existed, we could either make a decision, well, my servers and my data have to live in my data center,
right,
or I'll let my www site go elsewhere.
Right.
And you really just had those two choices. Now with the cloud, we have virtual servers, we have cloud-based file storage, we have cloud-based SQL storage, there's all sorts of stuff. So what do you think, Chris? Is it all about one location now? What do you see the market, what do you see SharePoint turning into?
It's about choosing the best location for what you're trying to accomplish, because there's so many of these disparate systems as far as, now we've got intranets and extranets and public websites, and all this data needs to be, some of it needs to be geographically dispersed, some of it needs to be local, and there's different there's different latency requirements for all of it. So it really depends on exactly what we're trying to accomplish with whatever solution we're deploying.
That's right. So we see the same thing. So we just had a conversation. In fact, let's recap the conversation you had over at the booth.
Sure.
From somebody coming up who was hosting. I can't do SharePoint hosting. I have to own my own servers.
Right. So there's a lot of people that have preconceived notions about what hosting is and what it isn't, and maybe they've decided, or maybe they've actually done the analysis to say, hey, look, I can't do hosting. Maybe they're a law firm, or maybe they're an accounting firm that has a lot of sensitive data, and that's fine. We're never, we're both on the same page of this. We never want anybody to go to hosting that's not ready for this, because it builds a very bad relationship. However, there's a lot of things on the fringe that we can do to facilitate better use of that intranet.
Right.
So we can take a lot of extranet environments and host them, and really kind of link them back to that intranet scenario. We can do public websites or publishing sites. So maybe you've got all these documents in-house and you're internal, and you go through a workflow process, and you publish those ones for external consumption, and they get pushed up to an environment like we host, and then they can, the public website can be serving those sites up. So it solves a lot of security issues. Your security guys don't have to have anonymous internet access coming into their data centers, which scares them. And
that's right. So some companies that would never think of giving you the intranet.mycompany.com will be much more comfortable to give you www.mycompany.com or extranet.mycompany.com. Well, let's take the scenario that they really just have an intranet. So companies like ours, if they don't want to give that data up and realize it's a control issue.
Sure.
And there's, hopefully they've gone through the business decisions to state that control is valid. And we're going to assume that it is. But there's a lot of ancillary work that goes along if they don't want to give that stuff up. So for instance, let's say they're going through a development cycle on a new site that needs to have new workflow, new branding, new whatever.
Taxonomies, managed metadata service, things of that nature. So the same rules apply to consultants, external consultants, as they apply to me. Do you really want to bring all these consultants that you don't know? They're temporary employees or whatnot. You want them to be in your environment with this sensitive data as well? So we've seen deployment scenarios where exactly that. People have come to us and said, "Hey, look, we've got 30 developers. They're coming in, and they're going to do all this work. They're going to tag all these documents, or they're going to set up all these external references or whatnot, and they're going to come in. We want to spin up this environment. We're very good at spinning up environments really quickly and shutting them down just as quick. Let's spin up a temporary environment, 6 months, whatever." We'll bring those consultants in. They can operate fully in my environment, and then at the end of that, migrate those documents back home. Very few security issues. and we've got a good scenario.
So development consultant type work, a great place to take and pull some of that data out of your intranet and put it elsewhere. May even help that security scenario, like you were saying. But even just standard dev cycles. So let's take a SharePoint build. A machine to do SharePoint development requires Windows Server. It requires the SharePoint environment fully installed and configured, and it requires the development tools themselves. This is not a lightweight machine, and it's not a cheap machine to build either.
No, it's not.
So especially, let's take the mid-sized company that doesn't have a large development cycle, or shop, but is going to go through a big development project. Well, spin up 3 or 4 or 5 of these types of machines that can exist for a period of time. Companies like ours use a SAL-based licensing, a subscriber access-based licensing. So they pay for them during the term that they use them, and then turn them back. And at the end of the day, a cheaper way to go to be able to retain control of what you're doing, as well as limiting the cost of what
and maybe they exist kind of on a long-term basis for testing or integration testing or small-scale projects. But then we get these large cycled projects that come through, and we can just scale those machines up, make them as big or as powerful as they need them. They can do their development on them, then they can pull that stuff back into their intranets, and they can shrink those machines back down.
And what I found as we've done that bit of work is this really just leads a company down the level, a path of being comfortable with this type of environment. It's a comfort level, sure. And in the end, as they go through the next upgrade, we see those companies coming into our business.
We see it coming in more and more. So that they release the development stuff, then maybe they release the extranet, and then now it starts to make sense to them to maybe release that intranet and start getting comfortable with everything.
Yeah, with the utility of a data center, which is really what it is, because these data center businesses have evolved to a point where we can trust that these professional large-sized data centers are going to work, and they are available, they are secure, and the server rack where your stuff is wholly and completely separate than the server rack that's next to it, as much as it would be if you had 2 separate buildings in different states.
And I was an on-prem guy, and hosting came up when I did that as well, and it's a scary jump. But if you can kind of be led down that path and realize that I'm not really giving up a lot of control on this. I'm letting go a lot of tasks that I probably didn't want to do anyway.
Right.
But I'm not really giving up a ton of control inside of this environment. I can't go and reach the power button, but I also don't have to go and replace drives at 3 in the morning either. So.
That's right. And how many of us still can even find the data server room if it was on premise to see the blinking light or push the button anyway? So I guess if we give you any message out of this, it is you don't have to jump in both feet first. You can step lightly. Economically, it makes more sense from a capital expenditure, operational expenditure perspective, and the places where you're going, whether it's either of our 2 companies, FPWeb or Rackspace, or another one. Generally speaking, you're going to be working with people who this is all they do from sun up to sun up, and those are the people you want managing your machines and your environments.
And be creative. Ask questions. We've seen a lot of different scenarios. If you're not sure, just ask questions. We'll get you in the right direction.
That's right. All right. So from TechEd, branch out. Let your servers outside of your data center a little.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
You bet. Thank you.